Carmela, you're muted.
Just as you said that, I realized I was muted. But thank you for that. I love that. It was a beautiful video. Not only the lyrics, the music, and the graphics are just wonderful. So good morning, everyone, and thank you to all who are joining us today via Zoom or our Facebook live stream. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Carmela, and it's my pleasure to be the minister of Unity Spiritual Center. Today, we're continuing with our series, The 7 Paths to God, the Way of the Mystic. So far, we've looked at paths 1 to 5, which is the everyday mystic, the generosity of spirit, the passion to serve, the way of the heart, and discipline, ethics, and will. Now, during this series, I invite you to just listen with an open heart, open mind, and see if any of these paths feel familiar or if you resonate with any of them. If you've missed any or would like to revisit them, you can view them on our website, on our Facebook page, and or on our YouTube channel. If you're viewing the live stream and would like to join us through Zoom on Sunday mornings, just email me at unity@unityspiritualcenter.org, and we'll send you the link for future services. So today we're looking at path 6, opening the wisdom eye, and that's contemplation and transformation. Now, someone who clearly expressed this path is Siddhartha, who through contemplation transformed from his human self to Buddha. Now, he remained a man. A Buddha is not a god. A Buddha is a human being who realizes divinity, realizes oneness. Now, Siddhartha was a prince, and his parents did everything they could to keep him from suffering. He grew up surrounded with wealth and beauty. He married at 16, had a son, and had all the material possessions anyone could desire. But his soul was restless, and he felt empty. He yearned to know more about life, to see beyond the confines of the palace. So one morning, he ordered his chariot driver to take him into the city, despite the king's instructions that he only be seeing things of beauty. Upon leaving the palace, he saw 4 sights that changed his life. The first was the sight of a very old man. Since the prince had never seen an elderly person before, he was shocked by the realization that the human body eventually withers. The second sight was that of a sick person. With that, the prince knew that the human body was unreliable, that one could be young and vigorous at one moment and then stuck down with illness in the next. The third sight was a corpse on its way to the burning grounds for cremation. When the charioteer told him that all people eventually die, the prince was shocked. Life was not only full of changes, but undependable, impermanent, with the certainty of death. Now, the fourth sight was a sadhu, a holy man. He was so poor that his only belongings were a begging bowl and a walking stick. The prince, though, noticed that despite his poverty, the holy man's face shone with inner peace. So then he thought, surely this man had the answer of why people suffer. And he had found some way out of that suffering despite being so poor. So that night, the prince left the palace and he took up life as an aspiring holy man. He studied with various teachers, but found they couldn't adequately explain human suffering. So he began to practice severe austerities. Near death from fasting, he realized that self-torture was not the way to enlightenment. Eventually, he found his way to the Bodhi tree. He circled it 7 times, sat down to meditate, vowing not to rise until he had perceived the truth about human existence and the end of suffering and then reach enlightenment. One night under the full moon, Siddhartha attained enlightenment by realizing the Four Noble Truths. The first is life inevitably involves suffering. The second is that our cravings to have or avoid create suffering. The third is to end suffering. The end to suffering is reached through renouncing the cravings. And four, the way to non-attachment is attained by practice of the Dharma, which is an eightfold way of right thinking, meditating, and living that develops compassion and knowledge of one's own true nature and divinity. From then on, he was known as the Buddha, or awakened one, and he began a life as a teacher. Now, as I said earlier, a Buddha is not a god. A Buddha is a mortal who dies to the ego or the small selves and is reborn to the bliss of the larger self, the higher self, the true self, the awareness of the inner divinity, of who we truly are. Now, the path 6 mystic, like the Buddha, must often reach a point of darkness, a spiritual crisis that causes them to die to their prior life in order to awaken to a new reality, a reality of peace, compassion, and divine union. And like the Buddha, these individuals are motivated to a life of contemplation, meditation, although they may still function in the secular world. Now, we've all experienced at some point or another, or will eventually experience, a dark night of the soul. I know I have certainly experienced it more than once. We move into the darkness within ourselves, and it is the most fertile ground for transformation, should we allow it to be. You know, at any point in life, we can play victim, or we can look at what's going on and really use it to rise above, to transform, to move out from our shadow into the light. We die to who we thought we were. It's a death of the ego where our previous identity no longer serves us. This is a sacred space between the death of the old and rebirth, shedding the old and embracing the new. Now, the idea of periods of wandering in the wilderness, along with trials and tribulations, is common to the spiritual stories of most traditions. We see it in scripture with the Israelites wandering for 40 years before they reached the promised land. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness, tempted by the devil, before he began to teach. If we're willing to view the dark night of the soul as spiritual opportunity, as an initiation to a new life, we can awaken to a new reality of faith, love, compassion, and the recognition that we are not our bodies. We are so much more. Now, not all path 6 mystics have to experience a crisis to awaken. There are those who purely wish to explore the purpose of existence, find a way to overcome suffering, and to be of service to others. They may also just have the willingness to devote themselves to long periods of contemplation and meditation. Now, in Unity, we're all familiar with affirmative prayer. Many of us practice affirmative prayer and meditation. It's what helped create the Unity movement in the 19th century. But we don't have a calling to enter a monastery or have it be a life career. We do, however, have the desire to grow and evolve, to expand our consciousness, to realize our divinity, to know that there is only the one, and to experience that Now, that is the way of the mystic. Mystics care about going within and realizing divinity. And I've shared in previous talks the difference between mysticism and magical. Now, a mystic is one who goes within and knows the powers within them. Magic is about dealing with things outside ourselves. And I shared that I bought my first tarot card deck when I was 15. So many people start out with magical and then evolve. Now, in the mid 80s, I clearly got messages from spirit to put down all those external things and go within, that the power was within me, that I had been told over and over again that I was a healer, but I didn't know what that meant back in the early 80s. I had to evolve into it, knowing again that the energy was not about something outside of me. The power was not in a symbol. The power was within me and my divinity, my connection to the divine. And that's true for all of us. Now, you may have heard the term centering prayer. This term was created by Father Thomas Keating, a contemplative Trappist monk, who used that term for a type of meditation that he taught. The intention of centering prayer is to enter into a relationship with God and ultimately experience a non-separated state or a joining with the divine. Like transcendental meditation, in the practice of contemplative prayer, one repeats a prayer word or a mantra. This quiets the mind. The repetition of the word gives us a space to let go and open up to a level of spiritual awareness that's deeper than the thinking mind. It goes beneath. This allows for God union to occur at a soul level beyond our perception. We don't notice it when we're meditating. We notice it in the transformation that takes place within our life by experiencing more peace, compassion, equanimity, mindfulness, charity, and love. So meditation serves us in moving into the truth and experiencing that oneness, that divinity. Now, as with all paths, there are 7 suggestions for path 6, or contemplation and transformation. The first is to adopt a regular meditation practice that suits you. Notice I said suits you. Do whatever form of meditation that works for you. But remember, this is not about using a guided meditation. This is about going into the silence. Guided meditations are great, but they stay in the outer levels of thought. It stays in the mind. Silent meditation moves you within. You escaped the surface mind and go deep within. So if you're trying to meditate and you get distracted during your meditation, just go back to your mantra or your breath. The suggestion is that we meditate twice a day for 20 minutes. If 20 minutes is too long in the beginning, that's okay. Do whatever you can do, and then eventually try and work up to 20 minutes a day. You know, I honestly don't do it twice a day. I aim to do it twice a day. I'm fine with doing my morning meditation, but I always seem to forget in the afternoon, because by the time the afternoon comes, I'm so distracted by what I need to do that I forget to sit down and take the time to meditate. I'm laughing because I used to set an alarm so that I would know at 4 o'clock, sit down and meditate. I've gotten to a point where I forget to set the alarm most of the time, but when I do, it works. The second is to find a teacher. If you're not an active meditator, you may need guidance, and that's fine too. You can take a meditation class or even find a YouTube video that instructs on meditation. Or you can find someone, if maybe you know someone that meditates, you can ask them to help you. If you do look outside yourself for assistance, though, be mindful to choose someone who's reputable. I hate to say it, but there are a lot of charlatans in the world, and I learned that the hard way. I learned that early on. So find someone that comes recommended by someone else, or ask a friend who meditates. You will find the perfect way and the perfect instruction for you. The third is, if possible, meditate and study with a group. And this is about being with like-minded people that support your spiritual growth. The fact that you're here today is an indication that you've already found a group of like-minded people, because we're all here to support one another in realizing our true self, realizing our divinity. And we do that by loving and accepting one another just the way we are. The fourth is to go on regular retreats. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to go somewhere else. You can if you choose to, but you can take a home retreat. If you're disciplined enough to not get distracted by what's around you and are able to devote your time to meditation, doing an at-home retreat is wonderful. I've been doing that for years. Every summer, as part of my vacation, I would take a few extra days to just be. I'd go to a waterfall, or I'd go into the woods. I'd find a rock to sit on and just meditate. My favorite place were waterfalls. I would just go sit there and just be, just leave the worldly things behind and just stay very, very present to that moment. I also take what I call working retreats. Once or twice a year, I'd go up to my son's weekend home, spend time there, and allow spirit to guide me in creating talk titles for 6 months or more. Now, I haven't done that since the onset of COVID, and believe me, I miss it. And I need that. I need to take time to just sit down, commune with spirit, and allow spirit to guide me in what comes next. The fifth is be gentle with yourself. And as we saw in Karen Drucker's video earlier, it's such a beautiful and much needed gift we give to ourselves, to be gentle. If you're new to meditating or just working on increasing your time and frequency, remember to be patient and gentle with yourself. It's easy to judge our process or feel like we're not doing it right or doing it enough. And that applies to everything, not just meditation. The fact that we make an effort is all that matters. So be gentle with yourself if you're trying to do a new thing, or if you're trying to change a behavior or change a pattern. In regard to meditation, maybe you can only manage 2 minutes or 5 minutes. The success is that you actually sat down to do it. Transformation is often an unconscious process, but you'll see the results show up in your life with increased peace, compassion, balance, and love. The sixth is to study the lives of mystics from various traditions. Remember, there are many paths to the same end result. And we can learn a lot from reading about the inner lives, thoughts, and experiences of saints and mystics. Some well-known mystics throughout history are St. Francis, Teresa of Avila, Meister Eckhart, Thomas Merton, Maharishi, Yogananda, Khalil Gibran, just to name a few. Give yourself time to browse your favorite bookstore in the spirituality or mysticism section. You can do that online. Go to your favorite book outlet and just type in mysticism. You'll be amazed what comes up. The seventh is steer clear of spiritual materialism. This term was coined by the late Tibetan Buddhist monk Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. Now, he warned that as we continue with our spiritual practice, we open up more and more to spirit. We become more intuitive. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but we will find that as our intuition increases, we may have precognitive dreams, have visions, have an inner sense of knowing. We may even get messages for other people. What he's warning about is not to get attached to any of these, because they can feed the ego and distract us from the ultimate goal, which is experiencing oneness. As I said earlier, early on in my development, I learned the hard way that just because someone has a gift, it doesn't mean they're spiritually evolved. Now remember that there's only one mind. There is only the one. So we all have access to that. We all have access to having precognitive dreams or getting messages for other people, as long as we keep our ego out of the way. Now, Jesus, our way shower, was a path 6 mystic. And if we follow his teachings, follow in his footsteps to the best of our ability through prayer, meditation, contemplation, transformation will occur. We will see it through the experience of greater peace, greater compassion, greater balance, greater joy. It's our birthright. It's who we are. And each and every day, we have the opportunity to awaken to this truth. So now I invite you to close your eyes as we move into meditation. Just allow yourselves to get comfortable in your seats. Feel your feet planted firmly on the floor. Put your hands relaxed on your lap and just breathe. Allow yourself to be present to this moment, the only moment there is. Allow all thoughts of the day, or maybe the things that you have your agenda that needs to get done. Just allow all those thoughts to slip away. Be fully present in your body and in your mind. You feel your breathing slowing down, and you breathe at a comfortable pace for you. So right now, in this moment, I set aside the busyness of the day. I set aside any busy thoughts so that I can focus on the now. I acknowledge that I am one with all living things. And I have a sense of a greater presence in and around me. So I let go of anything that distracts me from being the truth that I know that I am. I release fear and worry about any changes that may be going on. I know my thoughts have creative power. So I choose only positive thoughts. And when a negative thought occurs, I acknowledge that it has no power over me and I let it go. I affirm the good, knowing it is the basis of creation. I remember some past events that may have seemed to be a disaster, but that disaster turned into blessings. So I know that everything that comes my way has the possibility for greater good. I can change any negative experiences that I have. So I am grateful for the good that sometimes unfolds through difficulty. I am grateful for the power of my human spirit, for the divine love that I am and that I see in action. I affirm that God is my source and guides me through anything that I may be experiencing. I acknowledge that every being on earth is a potential channel for good. When I see conflict, I forgive. I remember that every person is an aspect of God, no matter the human behavior. Each and every one was born with divine attributes, just as I was. And I have the capacity within to solve any problem, weather any storm. I know that I am never alone, and I am never separate from God. This is the awareness that I allow to remain in the forefront of every moment as I move through my life in gratitude with the awareness that I am one. And now I allow myself to move deeper and deeper and deeper into the silence as I just listen. And now I bring to mind anyone who may be in need of prayer, all those on our unity prayer list, all those on silent unity. And we extend these prayers to the outer circle of the world. We know that there is a power and a presence within each of us that will see us through any temporary condition that we may be experiencing within the world form. We know that health, healing, and wholeness are ours. And we allow the progression of whatever needs to take place as we move towards health, healing, and wholeness. That presence, that power within us is our mainstay. And we are so grateful for this awareness. So I invite you to bring your consciousness back into the room where you are, back into your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back, everyone. So this is the time during our service where we have the opportunity to give. So I invite you to take your gifts and hold them in your hand and breathe love into them. And if you use your credit card or PayPal or the donate button on our website, just feel the energy that you are, the love that you are moving down your arms into the hands, into that symbol that you use to give. We are so grateful for the awareness that as we give, we receive. Because as we give, we open up ourselves to receive more and more. And we are so grateful for this awareness, and especially for the awareness of knowing that God is our source and God consciousness is our supply. We remain ever in the flow of our goodness, knowing that we are one and we are provided for on all levels. So I invite you to bless these gifts with me. So with your mics muted together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I am open to receive, and I am grateful.
All right, and the title of our